This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carinante.
Welcome to the Yanks Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carinante. Relaxing Thanksgiving weekend? Not a chance. One of the most annoying weekends of the year, and that includes a weekend where the Yankees went down 0-2 in the World Series. What a frustrating weekend of rumor mill action where Yankee fans were forced to absorb a deluge of Juan Soto to the Red Sox rumors, try to refute them while being unable to because people who read something they like are unable to be convinced that it is not true until someone steps in with more accurate information who is a more seasoned reporter. Then even when that reporter steps in, the people who believe the first thing don't believe that reporter because they're agitated and they're part of the Barstool mob. And they're like, well, that reporter is probably just angry that they didn't get the scoop that this Kirk Minahan producer did. So they continue to believe the thing that they believed anyway and make our lives miserable because the Yankees and Mets have been awful quiet on the Juan Soto front, while every Red Sox account you've ever seen is talking about him nonstop. Where there's smoke, there's fire is a thing that people love to say, but is that still true if all of the smoke comes from trolls lighting their own hands on fire with grenades? That's a great question. I'm actually not sure. Anyway, Randy Miller, Yankees beat writer, stepped in and made his feelings known. His feelings were pretty upsetting for Yankee fans and then forced us to explain for the trillionth time that Randy Miller gets everything wrong and had Aaron Judge going to San Francisco and said the Yankees would never talk to Marcus Stroman, and then they signed Marcus Stroman. And then Red Sox fans, Mets fans said, oh, now Randy Miller's not trustworthy. No, Randy Miller's been not trustworthy. Where have you been? By Andy Martino stepping in at the horn today with a bombshell Juan Soto column to help clear everything up that happened between Wednesday and Monday morning. In essence, that bombshell column was, we know zero things. You happy yet? You guys settled? You guys ready? Because you may think you know what's going on. Even those closest to Juan Soto, according to Martino, outside of his family, probably don't know where he's leaning. He might go to the Yankees, Mets, Red Sox, Blue Jays, potentially even the Dodgers. We've known this for weeks. It doesn't actually feel like the Red Sox are any more in it than they were when they got to that group of four. But regardless, fans in Boston have certainly been louder on the edges of their seats, and I don't blame them because they have a bunch of people feeding them trash, and they are so hungry for that trash that they are eating it up. So when the real stuff comes, it may be true. He may choose Boston. Those people who are trash are going to claim they had it first. They didn't. They just picked one of the four teams, and they picked one of the four teams that they're a fan of to agitate around. The first guy has gained 2,500 followers. He's on Twitter Blue. He's making money every time he tweets that Juan Soto to the Red Sox is a done deal. It may still happen. It wasn't a done deal last Thursday. We're going to clear it up as best we can, talk about what we know. Resolution should come this week, plus the Yankees' backup plans. If they do miss on Soto, how serious do we believe they are on Soto? What do we trust? What does anyone trust? And here to talk it out, of course, as always, is Thomas Carinante. Thomas, not a second of relaxation this week. Just like not even at all. Not even a little bit.
No. I didn't believe any of it, but it was just annoying to see it happening.
Yeah. And of course, that's the team that you see it happening with, not the Mets. There are no Mets influencers going above and beyond to say, I mean, Mets fans came up, they took out from the playbook, the Steve Cohen's wife is following Juan Soto on Instagram. And I was like, man, that's going to be the most annoying thing I read about the Juan Soto chase, probably the whole time. And then, oh boy, did I read so much more annoying stuff this weekend.
Very annoying. I forgot who, I don't pay attention to any of it unless it's backed by another report or it's substantiated in any sense. But one of the guys was like, yeah, no one believes our reporting, even though we were right about Rafael Devers' extension. And it was like, that was another thing that everybody was predicting because the Red Sox needed to spend anyway. And I don't think anybody even doubted that. It was just everything else that has come out of any of these reporters over the last few years, especially as it pertains to the Red Sox, has been incredibly wrong.
Well, I'm seeing some of the same people that I thought I'd never see again who tweeted every single day about how much closer the Red Sox and Xander Bogaerts were getting.
Oh, yeah.
And then one of them ended up with one of the final tweets was a bunch of money signs and a bunch of handshake emojis. And everyone is like, done deal. I'm so glad I followed this person I'd never heard of before last week. And then Xander Bogaerts went to the San Diego Padres. And then I didn't hear from that person for 2 years. And now they're back. Again, might Juan Soto go to the Red Sox? Sure. They're in his final four for a reason. They're motivated to spend. He's a great fit in that ballpark. He's a great fit in any ballpark. They have a great future ahead of them. Still feels like a stretch goal to me that they're going to shoot for the moon with Soto and then come back with Max Fried and Garrett Crochet and Willie Adames and then honestly still be extremely good next year. There's no bad outcome for the Red Sox, but man, they really convinced themselves that Soto was a done deal as far back as Thursday and are sort of still waiting for that announcement that may or may not ever come. And there are going to be a lot of people either taking victory laps or very disappointed at the end of this.
It goes to show how I think maybe uninvolved in the process Red Sox's fans been with big time free agency over the last few years. Any other team that has kind of been in this position where you're in a sweepstakes, there are 5 or more teams involved, and it's happening before the winter meetings. It's a much more drawn out process. And even when rumors begin to avalanche, whether it's whatever this was, or even if it's like someone like John Morosi who throws stuff out there too, and everyone's like, are we sure about that? The traction does not settle in until we're getting closer to the date as the market kind of needs to materialize. So like, yes, we did project or believe that maybe Soto will be signing before Sunday, before the start of the winter meetings. But I can tell you what, he definitely wasn't signing over Thanksgiving weekend, and he definitely wasn't signing with the team who had a bunch of rumors just randomly come out on him. It just doesn't work like that.
There was an amazing one where the guy who first claimed that the deal was done was like, just got done talking to his source really close to the signing. He said, I'm 100% right. And the Red Sox had an emergency meeting to talk about how right I was. And then they are filming something with Soto that's going to come out. They're doing an official announcement. Meanwhile, we know how crazy people are tracking rumors. They're filming something with Juan Soto at Fenway Park. Nobody found a private jet from the Dominican Republic to Fenway Park. Nobody saw Soto at the airport. Nobody saw Soto in a car. Nobody saw Soto in Kenmore Square. Like, you're not flying Juan Soto to secretly film a package at Fenway Park. Again, he might choose the Red Sox.
It could happen.
Childhood favorite team is real, although it's also the same playbook we heard with Aaron Judge.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people now who are, one of the tweets that was coming out of the Spanish language tweets yesterday said that a lot of people in the know are starting, influential baseball people in the DR, not even people in the know, are starting to think that the Red Sox could be the favorites. I would wager they think that because they've read nothing but Red Sox tweets for the last 72 hours. But there's Jeff Passan popping in over the weekend. I'm going to put the Red Sox, I think when I'm trying to grade them and the Red Sox in the rumor mill, like, I still think they have a legit shot to sign Juan Soto. They sit right in that, they're neck and neck with the Mets for me. And I think if the money's equal, he should want to go to the Red Sox over the Mets. I'm on record saying that. I'll continue to say that until we know the resolution of this process. So Red Sox is a real threat. I power rank highly. Red Sox as a done deal, and the Red Sox Twitter sphere knowing what's up, and the Red Sox guy saying that Juan Soto's sister was shopping for apartments in the area, and we should trust that because he also said that Garrett Cole's sister was shopping for apartments in New York 5 years ago, even though Garrett Cole didn't get an apartment in New York. He went to Greenwich and bought a mansion, so I guess his sister sucks at real estate. And also the same guy predicted the same guy said they're finalizing a 7-year, $250 million deal, which could not have been further from the truth, and which were two just random numbers selected. And Garrett Cole obviously ended up signing with the Yankees for different years, different money, and people are still touting that as a successful prediction, even though the guy just there were 2 teams chasing Garrett Cole, the Angels and the Yankees. He tweeted a contract prediction for the Yankees that was not even remotely accurate, and that's not a win. These are also people who, be careful, because it shouldn't have to be said, but it is being said. People will write tweets predicting something, gain no traction. Then that thing ends up not being correct, and they delete that tweet, and they keep the ones up that are accurate information to say my hit rate is 100% because I deleted all the things that I was wrong about or was lying about. This goes for rumors that you like too, like Yankees rumors. If you read a bunch of Red Sox rumors in a row, and we're all guilty of this. You read a bunch of Red Sox rumors in a row, and then someone comes out with a Yankees rumor that's like, that's not what I heard. I actually heard that like they're going to go higher than you expect for Soto, and it's pretty much a lock that he'll choose them if the money's equal. And then you cite that as facts. That is also not fact. It's just a rumor that supports a thing that you'd like to be true versus the Red Sox ones, which you would not like to be true. It just leads you to an annoying place where I'm going to rank the Red Sox as a threat quite highly. And if I'm Juan Soto and I've got David Ortiz funneling me towards his team, and they've got to be towards the top of the pay scale. Like what we've been told all along is that Juan Soto wants the biggest deal possible. If the Red Sox are not the biggest deal possible, they're like 50 million behind the Mets or 70 million behind the Mets and Yankees. He takes them. It's a slap in the face to what we've heard all along, but I'm not going to get mad at that until it actually happens or comes close to happening. My biggest, if I had to go on record today, which I obviously do, this is a podcast of record. This is legally binding. I think David Ortiz is in Juan Soto's corner trying to get Juan Soto the most money possible. Because that's what Juan Soto wants. And that's what we've always heard that he wants. He wants as close to a record-setting contract as he can get. He's got a good group of finalists. He's got the Red Sox and Blue Jays in here. The Red Sox are desperate to make a splash, and the Yankees just so happen to hate them. And the Red Sox just so happen to want to talk to Scott Boras about his other clients. The Blue Jays are the richest ownership group next to Steve Cohen. They're also division rivals with the Yankees. They're a good team to have in here. There are a lot of rumors today. After 4 days of Red Sox rumors, there are a lot of rumors that people think the Blue Jays might end up with the highest bid in all this process. From what we've heard, that would be enough to lure Juan Soto. He would sign with Toronto if they did have the highest bid. So 4 straight days of Red Sox scare tactics. Now we got to get on message. We got to get those Blue Jays scare tactics out there. We've been told all along that no one will outbid Steve Cohen. Okay, good to have him in the fray then. The Red Sox offers seem realistic to me. That's the thing about the Red Sox rumors that are coming out. The fact that the Red Sox have already signed a deal and Juan Soto's flying in and doing a prep package at Fenway Park, but Jeff Passan couldn't confirm. Like they're keeping that secret from Jeff Passan, but they're telling a radio producer that they're flying Juan Soto in to Fenway Park. I don't buy that one. And I don't think it's because Jeff Passan's hurt that he didn't get the scoop. I think Jeff Passan will be fine if he doesn't get the scoop. I actually suspect that John Heyman will get the Juan Soto scoop based on his relationship with Scott Boras. But we'll see. Either way, got to believe Passan there. But the Red Sox offer being 12 years, 600 or 13, 625. Those seem like real places that the Red Sox offer might land, whether it's true or not. But you've got Spanish language sources reporting those. I sort of suspect that David Ortiz, his role in recruiting him to the Red Sox has been a little overblown. He didn't go to the meeting. He and Juan Soto are already close friends. Juan Soto reportedly wants a close relationship with the owner, but John Henry didn't go to that Red Sox meeting either. Not sure if they've met, but they didn't meet at the initial one. It seems like David Ortiz's goal is to be a consigliere to Juan Soto and get the highest number possible. We heard Red Sox numbers over the weekend. We haven't heard anybody else's numbers until today when we heard that the Blue Jays would have the highest bid. So some specifics attached to the Red Sox, the threat of a looming, overwhelming bid by the Blue Jays attached to them. The two teams that most picked to finish third and fourth in this chase just happen to be the two teams we've heard numbers tied to either specifically or nebulously. That seems like David Ortiz is doing. To me, if I had to guess, I would say David Ortiz is leaking numbers to make sure that Juan Soto gets the highest amount of money possible. And I think Hal Steinbrenner will play along and Steve Cohen will play along, and their bids will both be massive. And I think if Steve Cohen can't outbid 13,625, then he's a huge cuck and we should never have to hear about him ever again.
I just don't believe any of this. I don't think there's any way an offer has now exceeded $600 million. First of all, in the case of the Blue Jays, we never even got what their offer was to Ohtani last offseason. So I don't even know.
You're more likely to never get an offer from a team that loses versus get these first floating offers. Because who wants their offer tied? We'll talk about this when we talk about Randy Miller. Who wants to lose and then have everybody know their pathetic offer? You'll either never have it leaked or they'll leak a lie.
Yeah, but still, like the fact that we didn't even get a lie. We didn't even get a lie about the Blue Jays offer to Ohtani last offseason. We got nothing, but they were said to be the close second. In terms of the Red Sox, sure, I still think they're a threat. I would be fairly surprised if they're willing to go this far and either play games by driving up the price on the Yankees or be serious about going upwards of $650 million after opting to not spend for however long. Like, I don't count Trevor Story and Masataka Yoshida as spending either. Those are deals that barely cracked the 100 million mark, and they were considered budgetary mid-market signings at the time. So I believe that there is validity in the sense that, okay, the Red Sox could have been saving their financial burst for these last two off seasons. But again, we got no information on their offer to Ohtani. We got no information on their offer to Yoshinobu Yamamoto either. Don't forget that. They were believed to be one of the top teams there. Didn't hear anything. And now I'm supposed to believe that David Ortiz is doing extra courting to Juan Soto to make sure that he gets $650 million, and that's going to push John Henry to the brink to convince him to sign or to convince him to bring him aboard. I just don't think so. I am a little bit concerned that the Mets are quiet. Haven't really heard much there. Then again, you have to remember wherever the rumors are loudest, that's usually the least likely landing spot. The only reason that wasn't the case last offseason was because Ohtani had maybe 3-4 suitors. The most obvious one was the Dodgers, and that one has been telegraphed for 3-4 years now. So even though that was, hey, where there's smoke, there's fire, came to be true, that's not always the case with these big names. And it's already, honestly, kind of a bad start for the Red Sox because they supposedly, this is where we got information from reports, said that they offered the same amount of, essentially the same exact contract to Blake Snell, and he chose the Dodgers. Mm-hmm. So it's Blake Snell's from the West Coast, probably makes it a little bit easier. But if the Red Sox tried to strike first there and didn't, and now they have to pivot and they have to play Boris games with his remaining clients and Soto, I mean, if they spend $1 billion, they spend $1 billion. Like, it's certainly feasible. It just doesn't add up for what they've done. And they would really, really, really have to believe in this core in order to do that. And again, that's something that's possible, but I don't buy the chatter in these preliminary conversations. Usually when more and more information is leaked in terms of specifics, in terms of kind of the salacious stuff, like, of course David Ortiz is going to be involved here because that's what's going to help the Red Sox pitch the most. It's just not, it's just always the least valid amount of information. So I am, the one thing I do believe out of all of this reporting, and it's sad because it has to do with the Yankees, is I believe there is a cap on the Yankees offer. I don't think there's going to be a bidding war with Hal Steinbrenner says he's prepared to go to lengths, right? I don't know if he understands how far those lengths can go, which could be a problem. And I could see, again, Brian Cashman doing what he always does. And yep, this is our offer. Take it or leave it. Tell us what you get from somewhere else, and we'll be sure to maybe up it if we want. But no player is inclined to do that because A, nobody really cares about playing for the Yankees anymore as much as they used to. And B, most players, I think, view that as a slap in the face. We saw that, for example, in a much lower stakes situation, but with Saquon Barkley and the Giants. They said, hey, go out there and see what you can get and come back to us and we'll see if we can match it. And he just never fucking came back to them because he said, okay, this is a slap in the face. I believe I'm worth more. Obviously, these are two very different players and different instances in terms of salary cap in football, running back in football, what is viewed as a redundant position, but playmaker, difference maker, face of franchise potential, and somebody who I think holds himself in high regard to know that, okay, like, I'm not playing games with a front office. Whoever offers me what they feel is worthwhile, I'm going to view that either as respectful or disrespectful. I'm going to make my decision off that. I'm not giving X, Y, or Z team second chance in the race here. But yeah, I mean, what was the rumored offer to the Yankees, or the rumored Yankees offer to Soto? $550.
Yeah, Randy Miller had no years attached, nothing attached. Just said, I suspect that the Yankees will top out at $550 million, and he's already got 2 or 3 offers above $600 million in hand. It sort of feels like 100. Both of those things are $100 million below where it'll ultimately end up. So,
do you think it's going over 7?
I think it's approaching 7.
I can't see it. It makes no sense. But yeah.
That's the Rainey Miller report. And if you believe that there's a cap, then I was very surprised to see MLB.com, especially yesterday morning. I know it's a holiday weekend, and I guess we got to trust beat writers, but just run with the idea that the sweepstakes were down to 2. That the Yankees were capped and Hal Steinbrenner already tapped out, and now it's just the Mets and the Red Sox in a bidding war. Based on what we learned from Andy Martino, which again was a relatively dry column meant to pacify people and say we don't have that much salacious information to give you. So here's a column reiterating where we were a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. The Blue Jays are certainly not out. They're even gaining steam in the rumor mill today as potentially the highest offer. The Yankees and Mets are all in, which we've known, but then we briefly were told otherwise by Randy Miller, who seemed to indicate that the fact that Hal Steinbrenner might have a cap and the fact that the assumption that the Yankees are out are 2 different things entirely, because we don't know the bids, we don't know where we've reached, and we don't know how high Hal Steinbrenner's limit is. I would agree with you that he's not going to, and I think this was even said, he's not going to make himself a pawn in the process. Like, I believe that Hal Steinbrenner is not going to just keep submitting higher and higher offers for him to take back to Steve Cohen. And that I do think we do reach a point where you got to look yourself in the mirror, especially if you got to gauge what's up with the Red Sox. You can't just lose him to the Red Sox based on negligence. But if you do get to the place where you're like, okay, fine, 630, and then Boris comes back to you and goes, Cohen did 630, can you do 650? And you go, okay, 650. And he goes, Cohen did 650, can you do 720? And you're like, no, I can't do 720. Let Steve Cohen do this. Like, I do think that is a possibility for Hal Steinbrenner. I think Hal Steinbrenner probably has to step in if he wants to get this done and delivered, because like you said, Brian Cashman, if you give him too many chances and too many meetings, will eventually say, that's just ridiculous. We're not going to the place that you're telling us about. Hope Juan Soto has a nice life. We'd love to talk to you about Corbin Burns, but we will be having no further discussions here. And sometimes that's necessary, and sometimes that's not the end point, and you can reopen the conversations after you've said that. But if Hal Steinbrenner cares as much about retaining Juan Soto as he said he does, he can't really let Brian Cashman dictate that walk away and not take control of it himself.
Yeah,
so
he would never do that.
I think that's true, though. I don't think that there's an unlimited, wide open wallet full of Hal Steinbrenner cash where he's just going to be like, take it all. You need $50 million more? Take that as well. I don't think he'll let himself be used in this conversation. And if we ultimately do learn that he was used by the Mets or by Boston, and he always had this deep desire to go to Boston, or he always knew the Mets could, he could extract another $50 million from the Mets and set some kind of record, then yeah, that'll be very frustrating to learn. But we just need to know that he put his best foot forward. And I think when you read that report about the numbers being 550, or that, hey, they'll finish 4th just because I said so, which is not to disrespect Randy Miller, but to minorly disrespect Randy Miller. A lot of that was just things that you could have estimated. The Yankees fear the Red Sox the most. I fear the Red Sox the most out of possible destinations. You tell me Juan Soto went to the Mets, I go, dang it. You tell me he went to the Red Sox, I'm not watching baseball next year. So yeah, that's logic and reason. You think that the Yankees might finish 4th just because of a hunch you have about, where this bidding is going. That wasn't sourced. That was just him saying, if my guess, they actually might finish 4th. And theoretically, that aligns with people saying today that the Blue Jays could blow the doors off with the highest offer. But I don't think that means that the Yankees finish 4th in the actual pecking order. And I also don't think that there's going to be this massive gulf between the Yankees and everybody else. I think the Andy Martino report today is a lot more pertinent. We don't know much of anything. It was a more valid report than John Morosi saying we're going to know a resolution within the next 10 days. Oh, yeah, thanks.
Cool.
Thanks, John. Yeah, I also think that. I think we might have a resolution by the end of the winter meetings, because if we don't, then no one else is going to sign at the winter meeting. So I agree. I think the calendar as it's set up now, specifically the events that are on the calendar for next week, indicate that we will have a resolution in the next 10 days. Yes, I believe that's accurate.
Do we think he signs before?
I used to, and now I don't.
Yeah, I never really thought he did. I know we got like a nugget of that information where it's like, hey, the talks are accelerating. This could get done sooner. But I think historically this has kind of been the process. Like top free agents have always received offers mid-November, end to November, and it would drag on into the winter meetings as these agents were trying to set the market. So like obviously part of this is teams or agents leaking information to drive up the price on another suitor, to drive up the price on the market in general. So you have someone like Boris who has multiple clients who would benefit from any one of these elevated inflated deals, what have you. So part of this is strategy, and then when you bring it all the way through the winter meetings, that's where the pressure is on, because obviously you have all these executives in one place, you have all the teams in one place, you have all the agents and the players in one place, and the clock starts ticking. And that's when other teams might get desperate. Other teams might say, hey, I'm going to lock this in now. I would be of the mindset, if I were an executive, to get my hands on somebody as soon as possible. I like what the Dodgers did with Snell, which we should probably touch upon because that happened when we didn't podcast on Thanksgiving of last week. Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, Dodgers went out and they got their guy. The Red Sox reportedly offered the same deal. It was 5 years, $182 million. That puts him higher than Garrett Cole in the AAV scale. It's $36.4 million. So there are a couple of things to parse through here. A, it's the aggression, right? So if you see a guy out in free agency that you like and you have a long offseason checklist and you don't want to wait until the winter meetings when more teams are going to be chomping at the bit, then yeah, overbid to alleviate the stress. There is a signing bonus in Blake Snell's deal. There is deferred money in Blake Snell's deal. So the Dodgers were able to work something out that made sense for everybody. Snell, obviously, now you calculate his 1 year offer from the Giants last year, and you're talking 6 years, what, 215 or something like that? It was 30. He made 33 million last year. So him, I guess, holding out of that $150 million offer from the Yankees last year ended up being good business. The reason I am now doubting the Yankees more and more by the day is because you had last year, right? And they supposedly offered that money to Snell, and he said no, probably at the advice of Scott Boras. And then we were all sitting there and we were like, okay, well, if he doesn't want the 5 year, $150 million deal or whatever it was, which again, very fair offer, that's $30 million a year. And that's a lot of money for somebody. Regardless, like pitchers are making anywhere between 25 and 38 million. Like that's not an unreasonable offer. But then you questioned and you were like, okay, well, if he believed he was worth more and you couldn't extend further than that, which again, you could have, you just chose not to, then why wouldn't you take the route of the short-term high AAV offer? And we sat here and we said, you know what? Boris probably doesn't want to give the big market teams the luxury of doing that because he'd rather have the big market teams set the precedent, reset the market, whatever you want to call it, for longer term deals, and have smaller market teams take on the brunt of the short-term high AAV deals, because that's something they would be, mid-market and small market teams would more than likely be able to afford, because they don't have all this future money on the books that's hamstringing them from various decisions year after year. But then Snell turns around and he does the short-term high AAV deal with a big market team in the San Francisco Giants. So first of all, where were the Yankees there? I know they had a luxury tax concern, but they ended up blowing by it anyway. So what was another, 13 million, because they pivoted from that Snell deal and they gave Marcus Stroman 54 million over 3 years. So now they're paying Marcus Stroman $18 million a year for 3 years, instead of just paying Snell 32 or 33 for one and having him either reset the market, or you say at that point, hey, you're worth the contract extension, so like let's talk about the number you wanted. And then you look to this offseason and you're back to the negotiating table. You need a starting pitcher. You could argue that this isn't an immediate need for the Yankees because in the end, the pitching mostly got the job done this year. You just do have the concern of paying Carlos Rodon all this money and him not being anywhere close to what you had suspected when you first brought him in before the 2023 season. And you see that the Yankees had a Zoom call with Snell You see it came and went, and then he goes to the team that beat the Yankees in the World Series. And there are a number of factors here that could have contributed, right? Snell is from the West Coast. It's that he has a family that is apparently where he might have preferred to be, as you can tell by the Red Sox offer identical to the Dodgers offer. But in that case, you're going to the Dodgers every time and not the Red Sox after what the Red Sox have done for the last 5 or 6 years. But where are the Yankees? Where are the Yankees offering a few more bucks? Where are the Yankees offering the same deal? Maybe with something else more favorable in it, and maybe no deferred money, because deferred money makes it less valuable over time for the player. I don't know. But so you have the Yankees last offseason, again, setting a number. They set a number with Snell. They said $150 million, and that's all we're going. And then there was no creativity beyond that. And then there was a pivot to a lesser free agent who was going to cost them a similar amount of money, right? Like, unless you're paying somebody, in my opinion, like $13 million or under, it doesn't matter. Because if you're paying Marcus Stroman close to $20 million, you might as well just pay anywhere between 30 and 35 for Snell. Because now Marcus Stroman's a problem. Marcus Stroman is not really factoring into this team's plans. There's conversations, rumors, or speculation, or at least fans talking about dumping this contract in some sort of salary exchange this offseason. So what is more worth it for you? This is where I get confused with what the Yankees are doing, because they've had to have realized by now that putting a cap on any of their offers, it doesn't appeal to anybody. It actually, I think it dissuades free agents from signing here. And secondly, what's the philosophy with passing on someone who is I think we can be honest, Blake Snell is a perennial Cy Young candidate. You have people complaining about him fucking walking too many batters, but it's like he doesn't surrender hard contact and he strikes out a ton of people.
And he doesn't go deep into games, which nobody does.
Yeah.
Clark Schmidt goes deep into games. He doesn't complete 5 innings. He just got to the World Series with 2 guys who can get past the 5th inning. So having your first 5 innings covered by an ace, a Cy Young caliber guy, is more valuable than having your first 5 innings covered by a number 3 starter.
Exactly. And we've had our doubts. We talked through the Snell contract last offseason. We talked about the length. We talked about the injuries. We talked about the walks. But in the end, like, it's a Cy Young caliber pitcher. It's a left-hander. It's somebody who pitches well in big games historically. He has that reputation. So I just don't know where the Yankees thinking. I don't know where it starts to peter off, because you then pivot to Marcus Stroman, who all similar concerns, right? Lack of length, a lot of injuries, a lot of walks, limits contact, limits home runs. And you're talking about essentially the same pitcher with a worse body of work. And you're like, yeah, sure, we'll still pay a lot of money for that, but we're going to draw the line with this guy over here. So it just seems like, and remember, when the Yankees had their negotiations with Stroman, there was a handshake. It was like, hey, you're going to kind of play by what we want. We're going to welcome you back after all the crap talking that went on over these last few years. And they put it all behind them, and Stroman ended up being happy, and the Yankees, I guess, were content with their offer. But now we're talking about this being a sunk cost potentially. And look, I think there's value in Marcus Stroman, even at that price point. Like, if he can start 25 games a year, like, that's the price you pay for starting pitching. It is what it is. But if you want to win those high leverage rivalry games, if you want to win those big time games down the stretch, if you want to ensure yourself against October collapses, like Blake Snell, someone like that is the guy. So the Yankees are passing on these identity changing names in favor of cost conscious-ish players who are not getting them to where they need to be. And that's been the case with everybody. Like, we can go down the list of free agents the Yankees have signed over the last few years. It's literally Marcus Stroman, Carlos Rodon, Garrett Cole, and then a mishmash of shorter term deals that didn't really make an impact, re-signing guys or trading for guys who have failed. So the Yankees' impact on the free agent market, in my opinion, it's falling out of favor by the day, and they're doing nothing to repair it. Absolutely nothing.
It's funny, too, that we're so focused on Juan Soto now and the Aaron Judge. Obviously, that was retaining one of our guys. But other than it, before the Aaron Judge extension chase, the Yankees were so beyond out on all these high dollar options for like a decade.
Yeah.
Like, it now feels like it's their birthright to get Soto. I mean, who the hell knows? They're certainly involved. Aaron Judge, people were telling us the Giants were the favorite, but it did feel kind of ridiculous that they would not retain someone and make him captain. And ultimately, at the end of the day, they figured it out. And they also signed Carlos Rodon. Good for them. But in the 10 years prior, it was like, man, you know who'd be a great fit for the Yankees? Max Scherzer. Too bad they're not even remotely interested in that. John Lester would be a good fit. Not interested. Bryce Harper and Manny Machado. Surely they're going to play around this offseason. They will not. They acquired Giancarlo Stanton. The Marlins pay off a good deal of his contract, and they clearly thought, ooh, good value. We can get this MVP-type guy without having to pay the amount of money it'll take to grab Bryce Harper or Manny Machado. Machado, who, for all intents and purposes, really wanted to be here. And then as the offseason dragged on, it was like, wow, I actually felt kind of hopeful about that in December, and now here we are in February, and the Yankees aren't involved at all, and his cousin's wearing a White Sox hat. And that's funny that was a front runner at something. But before chasing Aaron Judge, the Yankees could not have been more out on these top dollar free agents, and now we're considering adding them to every mix, to Blake Snell and to Corbin Burns and Willie Adames and Alex Bregman and all these people. I don't think they have any chance of signing. But before 2022, from 2012 to 2022, we would never have been considering these. Think about how great a spot the Yankees would be in if they had just signed Max Scherzer back in the day. Well, not even connected to him. Like they would have been able to. Scherzer and Harper, these names don't come around very often. The Yankees probably have another ring or two on their shelf, but instead everybody loved the 2017 Yankees because they were homegrown and scrappy and they had some veteran leadership. And yes, I loved them too, but put Max Scherzer on that team. Better team.
Put anybody else on that team. They opted for like J Happ. Players like that. It was like, hey, J Happ, here's a 2-year deal with a third year for an option. We'll pay you $17 million. And it's like, why don't you just go up to 25 for someone who's actually good?
Oh, and I really hope we don't have to pay that option. Then why'd you give it to him?
Yeah, stop fucking giving them the options that you don't want to pay for. Like it was obvious they didn't really want to pay Stroman's option, but the way that they kind of structured the contract, because Stroman was not meeting those innings requirements for the most part. On a consistent basis over the last few years. And now they're stuck with it. Now they're stuck with 2 more years at $18.5 million. And they were better off doing almost anything else in terms of the high-end free agency market for starting pitchers. So again, I don't know. Maybe the Soto negotiations are what brings them back into the free agent market. But again, I would still devalue it a little bit because Soto already had his taste of New York. And I'm talking about situations where it's like you're convincing another player to come play for you and to come help reignite and strengthen the culture and to help make a mark on the franchise. And the Yankees don't do that. Like the advantages they've had in these few free agent deals that they've made were Garrett Cole, lifelong Yankees fan, and Yankees were desperate for pitching. And there were only 3 teams involved in his bidding because he was going to cost $300+ million. Carlos Rodon, who I think to this day, we still don't know who the other suitors were because there was virtually no market. And it was said that, oh, this deal with the Yankees is going to get done. It's just a matter of when and a matter of how much. So why did it take so long to pay him more money than anybody really thought he would sign for? What was that all about? And then Marcus Stroman, Yankee fan who always wanted to play for the Yankees and pretended to switch gears when he was with the Mets, and it was all a charade. And now, like, you're looking at this team and you're like, who actually is here that this team has recruited and didn't trade for and force into the picture, or capitalizing on paying somebody less. That's been the Yankees' MO. The Yankees' MO is not overbidding. The Yankees' MO is not striking on a guy that they like. It's waiting until the entire field settles, and then they're either stuck with who they're stuck with, or they're just rolling with the same shit over and over again.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, if you really like Blake Snell, like all these reports that Yankees really like Blake Snell, great. Then you fucking offer him $200 million. Like, I don't know what you think this is. Then you offer him $200 million, and you outbid the Dodgers and you get Blake Snell instead of sitting around and saying, oh, well, we might be able to get Max Fried or Corbin Burns for like a similar price. No, you don't know that. You do not know any of that. You don't know what's going to happen. So again, it's more so, in my opinion, it's image for the Yankees. They don't want to look like the clowns that are overpaying for somebody or bidding against themselves. And in reality, they've done that the last 2 times they signed, the last 3 times, in fact, that they've signed starting pitchers in Stroman, Rodon, and Cole. They bid against themselves with Garrett Cole. The next highest offer was the Angels, and it was like $80 million less, something like that. Yeah. The Rodon, again, we don't know who the suitors were. We don't know how they arrived at that number. Hal Steinbrenner was rumored to be mad about it after the fact, too.
Why did I do that? I shouldn't have done that.
Oh, damn it. I'm mad at the thing that I did again.
Yeah.
And then you have Stroman, who, I don't even know what Stroman's market was last offseason, too. I know he definitely had teams interested in him, but, how many teams were interested at 3 years, $54 million? I really don't think many. I just don't. So they have a lot of repairing to do, and it's unfortunate that it comes in an offseason it always comes in a high leverage offseason, but you're talking about Juan Soto, you're talking about Mets, you're talking about Blue Jays, you're talking about Red Sox, and it's just a really bad recipe. Because at least for a team like the Red Sox, sure, they've fallen out of favor with free agents, right? They've had many self-inflicted wounds over the years, but guess what? They never had the reputation of the Yankees. Never, in terms of free agency destination. Mets, never. Blue Jays, never. So all those teams have advantages because the stakes are a little bit lower in terms of their reputation and their pull. And until the Yankees want to do an about face and either spend money more, in a more smart manner. Remember, they're paying fucking Aaron Hicks $10 million this year. They're paying DJ LeMahieu $15 million this year. And I understand that some of the, fans wanted the DJ contract. Fans had no interest in Aaron Hicks's extension. Fans had no interest in a lot of these other high dollar deals or high dollar trade acquisitions over the years. And this is the position that they put them in. And no free agent is going to sit there and be like, oh man, Brian, I'm really sorry about the misallocated funds the last few off seasons that have put you in a perilous position with your payroll. Yeah, sure. You know what? I'll take 50 less million and, we'll handshake on this and we'll talk about it later. No, nobody has any interest in doing that. They want more money to come to New York to deal with all of the hoopla and the nonsense, and they're not getting it. So why are they going to sign here?
Garrett Cole was a diehard Yankee fan, but he was also a fan of making the most money, and he did that by coming to the New York Yankees, both in advertising and in offer. The Yankees outbid the Angels, and we're always going to. So it's important and noteworthy. I also think there was sort of somebody was doing a thing. Obviously, Soto and the Yankees and Red Sox are both involved, and there was an article about notable players who jumped between the teams. It was like Wade Boggs, Johnny Damon. As for those who've jumped from the Yankees to the Red Sox, the best we can find is Don Baylor. David Cohen did it in 2001 to revive his career. The list was so limited, and it would have sounded ridiculous 20 years ago, but it sounds a little bit less ridiculous now that the Yankees don't hold the same cachet, and the Red Sox, if they're interested and the money is close, and Juan Soto's childhood fandom may force him to align with somebody else. He's got a 1-year allegiance to the Yankees. That being said, he was a childhood fan of the Red Sox and David Ortiz and Manny Ramirez and Pedro Martinez. He was a current day fan of the Yankees, Aaron Judge. He played with the team last year, and it went really well. And he and Aaron Judge had celebrations together, and he ran out to right field and pumped up the right field crowd before every game, every inning. Juan Soto had a great relationship with the Dominican Yankee fans. So I understand David Ortiz, personal favorite of his. He will not be playing for the team. Aaron Judge will still be playing for the New York Yankees, and the fans who were there last year will still be here. This is how you know it's worked. Over the weekend, I was seeing Red Sox fans doing man, I hope the Red Sox sold him on the fact that if he went to Boston, he'd be booed and people would be throwing beer cans at him, and he went to New York, and then he would hit a 3-run home run. He'd probably be smiling all the way around the bases. It's why would you? They actually shouldn't be selling on that. Why would it be a selling point that everyone who loved you last year will hate you now? That's the opposite of a selling point. I mean, Embrace the hate. You're going to get it from Boston if you sign with the Yankees. The Yankees should do the same thing. Man, wouldn't it feel so good to rub it in those Red Sox fans' faces? Why would you want to say, hey, Juan, you should really sign with us to piss off all these people who were devoted to you last year? Don't you want to use their rage to fuel you? No. Why? The only reason any of that would make sense is if he is entirely disrespected by the New York Yankees during this process with an offer or with behavior, which ties back to the Brian Cashman thoughts, the Hal Steinbrenner limit, etc. Yeah, you'd want to stick it to the Yankees if Hal Steinbrenner went 100, 150 million below anybody else. But other than that, it really does not sound like a selling point to me at all to piss off an entire city and then let their hate fuel you. Only if there's a good reason for it. Nobody wants to create a city's worth of hate.
Why not? I
Well,
would.
Frankie Montas did it, so probably worth trying on. Yeah, I don't know what we can learn about
Cohen, what are you doing?
Steve Cohen's money has allowed him to sign Frankie Montas to a 2-year, $34 million deal. You want to talk about the J Haps of the world? This came in on Sunday night of Thanksgiving weekend, and it really scared me until I got to the end of the tweet because it said free agent Frankie Montas and the New York, oh my God, no, Mets, have agreed to a 2-year, $34 million deal. That's some serious coin. Montas last year we thought was going to be a Yankee on a bounce back. Like, hey, this is a former Cy Young candidate. Maybe you can get him for 1 year 6, 1 year 8 with an option after all that. What we thought we might be able to get Walker Buehler for, that money's going up by the day. But yeah, if you can get him for super cheap, you'd entertain it. And ultimately, he signed for 1 year with $16 million for the Reds last year. Goes to Milwaukee midseason. His ERA in Cincinnati is over 5. He finishes the year with a 4.84 ERA, 150 innings, which is kind of a miracle given the state of Montas' shoulder. But that's not good. And so the Mets did this last year with Severino, who was pretty good, and Sean Manaea, who was great. Those are both 1-year deals. They're moving on. Clearly, that's how David Stearns likes to address pitching. That said, this is a 2-year deal for someone who was durable last year and demonstrably worse. Not worse than Luis Severino, obviously. No one was worse than Luis Severino in 2023. But Montas was active and bad for a large portion of last season. So, okay, that sort of screams 1 year 19, 1 year 20. The Mets making a 2-year commitment to this guy who actively was not good. This isn't a 1-year deal where you're hoping for a pillow and you're hoping to give them the qualifying offer, get a pick next year, rehab them into a guy who can get multiple years elsewhere. You're committing 2 years off the bat, which is the only reason it raises an alarm bell to me because Frankie Montas is a Scott Boras client. Is this a show of faith from the Mets, goodwill towards Boras, saying, we obviously want Juan Soto. We know a bunch of teams are serious about Juan Soto. Here's how serious we are. We'll guarantee 2 years to a guy who doesn't deserve it because that's the amount of money. So we have enough money that we're obviously going to, whatever the highest bid for Juan Soto is, we can match that. Also, we'll help you get Frankie Montas off your hands. We know you're probably not getting offers anywhere close to this. We'll outbid everybody by $10 to $15 million. And now he's ours, and we'll tack on an extra year. You don't even have to worry about him next year. That's a burden off your shoulders. That's the only reason I'm looking at this. Ridiculous to say that? Yeah, I mean, it's a stretch. But otherwise, I don't understand the 2 years at all here. The pitching market's crazy. I guess it's this crazy. Last year, we thought 116 was crazy. And then he wasn't good. And now 234 is the standard.
Yeah, I don't get it. But it's not my job to get it. I would just, we've had the Frankie Montas experience.
It is.
It's my job.
Typically your job to get it.
My job to get the free agent market. Yeah, I mean, I could do better. You're right. I certainly could. But this is more so, I think, it's one of two things. It's what you said. It's a show of faith to Scott Boras and giving him money for a client that should not be getting the money because I don't know on what planet. I mean, look, I do know on what planet, like plenty of pitchers with 4 ERAs get paid.
4.84.
Yeah, his career ERA is 4.09, so I'll just go by that, I guess, if we really wanted to. Or it's David Stearns is crafty. I think we've all realized that. I don't know what they're doing, but I think last year we probably raised eyebrows to the litany of deals he made with starting pitchers, with Manaea, with Severino, did he trade for Quintana? I believe he did, or was that somebody who preceded him? I don't know. Either way, the Mets have done these things where it was like, are you sure about that? And then it ends up turning – who?
No, I mean, it was definitely Steve Cohen.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Steve Cohen led Target, but
December 2022, so that's Billy and Epler.
Billy and Epler. God. I look at, and again, like there's the Brewers connection there, and he clearly had a bit of a revival with Milwaukee. I don't know if they did anything. I don't know if he has a connect in the pitching department over there, but it could be one of those two things. I don't know how this is a 2-year deal. I don't know how Montas earned more after the 1-year deal. Like, to me, in my opinion, it's an underperform for the 1 year, $16 million that he got. He had a good start to the year, and then he kind of crumbled. Outside of that, like, you just look at the Mets and you know that they need pitching, and this to me is a Stroman-esque signing, right? It's similar money. It's literally the exact length the Yankees had. They just attached an option to it, which Stroman fulfilled in year 1. And it's somebody they need to eat 25 starts a year for, because it's a long season and you can't rely. We've seen how many times you can't rely on these spot starts from prospects. And you can't rely on shuttling guys to and from AAA, fringe major league players to get the job done. You need to pay for it. And the highest, the most expensive commodity in baseball is starting pitching. So I do understand it from the market perspective, but I don't understand it from like knowing who Frankie Montas is, right? Like, at least, like, you talk about him having Cy Young. He was once upon a time in the Cy Young voting. Like, that was back in 2021, and B, what he's gotten, it's an outlier. It's very much an outlier season. You look at the rest of his body of work, and it's either abbreviated or it's bad. So if Scott Boras is in these meetings and he's like, "Yeah, you hear this guy back in 2021, he was a Cy Young candidate," I'd be like, "Yeah, I don't give a shit." It was the only year he made 32 starts. It was the only year he made 30 plus good starts. And I'm not paying an elevated price for that. Marcus Stroman has had an actual, like, lengthy body of success in Major League Baseball. I know he's had abbreviated seasons due to injury, but Marcus Stroman has been a name in the starting pitching market for a long time. So I can much rather understand where the Yankees were going with that as opposed to where the Mets are going now. But then again, the Mets can afford it. They could blow some cash, and they could fortify the back end of the rotation. Don't forget, they are losing. Who are they losing this year? They're losing Severino. Well, they're not losing them. They're all hitting free agency. Severino, Quintana, Minaya, and there's somebody else in there. But they're losing a lot of guys who contributed to eating those innings, making those starts in 2024.
Pete Alonso.
And they got to replace them.
Sorry, you said eating those innings, not just eating.
Not just eating polar burgers.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's a lot for them to replace, and they went in the Montas direction. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I would never do it. I already had this experience. It was the most unpleasant of my life. So kudos to them. I guess if it works out, great. If it doesn't, then you saw the writing on the wall the entire time.
Definition of something that I don't even want to think about what if it works, because I don't want to go through the process to make it work. I just want to pay Corbin Burns. But fine, if this is what you want to do. Bueller, I still think, is my guy in this department.
I would love Bueller. I would love
If you could pay Frankie Montas that amount of money, I don't know why you can't pay Walker Bueller. And we saw today that the Mets might be interested in him. They should be. That's sort of a easier way to do this. And someone with more big game experience, someone I have much more faith in. Even last year, Sean Manaea's playoff numbers. As soon as the playoffs started, everybody was like, "Oh, wait a minute, this guy's one of the worst playoff starters in modern Major League history," and then ended the season with a stink bomb. So these are guys who were rehabbed to pitch regular season innings, were worn down by the time they got to the playoffs, and don't have a playoff pedigree. And when it came time to go toe-to-toe with the Dodgers, who didn't even have a rotation at that point, the Mets still came up short, as did we. We all do sometimes come up short. But the Mets built their team to get through the regular season. When they got to the playoffs and went, "Oh, this rotation's untopped by an ace. We just sort of have these guys." He's the ace rotations don't usually work, and this one didn't. And now Frankie Montas is the latest ingredient in those kinds of conversations. Well, thank you for joining us here on the Yanks Go Yard podcast. We hope to have more concrete news on Juan Soto by end of week. It would be great to have at least a rumor from a legit source to latch onto. Would feel real good. But so far, nothing really boiling anywhere. No realistic Yankees backup plans. Blake Snell won't be one of them. You know, you can connect them to Alex Bregman all you want. I don't think they're making a move on any of these big names until Soto signs somewhere. Hopefully it's here, but hopefully we have more data by Thursday. We don't have to talk about realtors and sisters and Kirk Minahan show producers and how much money the Blue Jays can lie about having when it comes time to woo Juan Soto. We'll see. We'll see. But all of it still sort of seems like Smokescreen City right now. And I'm Adam Weiner. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Weiner at Blue Sky. My username is insane, like all of them are, but I'm over there as well. Thomas Carinante, where can the people find you?
At Tommy's_takes. Same on Blue Sky. Weird platform. Trying to get used to it. I don't know. Maybe it works. Maybe it doesn't.
Whatever.
I've
Can't
seen
imitate
more.
us. We're there. We're there.
Yeah.
So.
More insiders have been blue skying from that. What do they call the blue sky message?
I don't know. Skeeting.
It's nothing. Skeetering. So yeah, we are also at the official The Yanks Go Yard account at Yanks Go Yard FS. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We greatly appreciate it. Hope you guys all had a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend. Back on the grind now, though. A lot of free agent rumors this week, trade rumors, whatever you want to call them. Winter meeting starting on Sunday night. We're going to be here sunrise to sunset. Those 5 days, what is it? 5 days, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then what? They're there Thursday a little bit, and then they bounce.
Yeah, I don't know. Sunday night, too. I don't know if we're going to get anything. My early guess for Soto was we're going to get it the first night, but now I don't feel that way. I think it's going to take the duration of this process. We'll see. Who knows? Yeah. Maybe his sister finds that apartment quickly and we can move on. But, yeah, the 9th through the 12th, they do the Hall of Fame vote reveal on the 8th. Might get a little bit of mingling. 9th, 10th, 11th, all bangers. And then the 12th, people start flying out mid-afternoon, and I don't know if you're going to get any news by the evening. But we will see. Either way, we'll be here. We're going to do plenty of shows. We got some good guests next week. We're going to check in on them and find availability. Might be going live at some weird times, so just set the notifications on the channel. Make sure you're getting alerted when we are going live because we're going to have some really fun stuff for you next week. Until then, I'm Adam Weiner, and for Thomas Carinante, see ya.